Wait, I have to say this. The Rockman Power Hour. Rockman Power Hour.
Welcome back to the Rockman Power Hour, a podcast where we talk to the most interesting people in the world of pop culture and everything in between. And this week on the show, we are joined by a guy who pretty much a lot of people say is the godfather of hardcore. And I tend to agree that this gentleman is definitely one of the godfathers of hardcore. Vinnie Stigma from the band Agnostic Front is joining us on the podcast this week. And I got to tell you, this is an exciting thing for me because I'm a big fan of Agnostic Front. I absolutely love the band and I love Vinnie. I think he's a great ambassador to New York hardcore around the world. And he's decided to write a book along with his friend Howie Abrams called Vinnie Stigma, the Most Interesting Man in the World. That book is currently available right now wherever you buy fine books or wherever you order your books. And I'm very excited that we got a bit of time to talk to Vinnie in between this massive book launch and this tour that he's on with Sepultura with Agnostic Front. He took a couple of minutes to chat with us today, so this is really exciting. Now let me bring in my co-host Ryan Stick. Ryan, I know that you are a fan of punk rock and you are a fan of heavy music, and I'm pretty sure you're a fan of Agnostic Front, or at least you're familiar with the band.
I'm very familiar with the band. In fact, shout out to my friends Disgruntled. Let's say if, when you're coming up in a scene, there's like there's your band and then the band you hang out with all the time that you have a little bit of a rivalry with, where if you get t-shirts, they get t-shirts, but they get a t-shirt stand and a sign about it. So shout out to Disgruntled, that the band, the friendly competition and brotherhood of Disgruntled, they're the ones who told me about Agnostic Front. In fact, if anything, the members like Dan and Chris, they're the ones who opened up my world to a whole world of punk rock and hardcore, because I was just stuck in Green Day Town. Yeah. So
Not a bad place to be, but definitely, if you go back to where things started, it's crazy, because like Agnostic Front, we're like at ground zero almost for that whole movement in New York. So I'm really excited about the book. I haven't read it yet, but it is definitely on its way to me. I've ordered a copy, and Vinny's going to be in Montreal and going to be on the road with Agnostic Front in the fall with Sepultura. So hoping to get to say hi to him again in Montreal when he's here. I'm going to give you this picture, Ryan, and maybe if you could throw this up. This is a photo of me and Vinny the last time they played at Fofone Electric, and you could see me. I was with it was when the Godfathers of Hardcore documentary came out, which was pretty much on the band. I'm going to show you this vinyl.
Cool.
So there was a documentary that was done on the band called The Godfathers of Hardcore. That's Roger Merritt, actually, the singer of Agnostic Front, on the cover. And if you can probably not see it through the paper, but I met the guys backstage, thanks to my friend Blake Hipson, and I got them to sign this. And there's Vinny on the back. Like, what I like about Vinny is he's a really interesting cat, man. You look at him and you'd see that and you're like, man, that looks like a scene from a mob movie. But the guy has a lot of sides to him. Not only is he, a great guitar player and a great ambassador for hardcore music, but he's also a cigar lover, and that's a passion that I share with him as well. He's also supposedly a really good cook, and there's a lot of sides to this guy. So you find that out in our chat today, that the man is multifaceted. The way his book is laid out is not like a traditional book. The book is it's part comic book, it's part recipe book. There's a lot of things in this book that are probably going to blow people away. And if you're a fan of hardcore music, you want to read Vinny's tell-all book, because it's going to give you insight into so many things when it comes to that scene. And the New York hardcore scene is a scene that is often replicated. People around the world want to be associated to it in some way or another. And a lot of people will claim that I was there when that happened, but New York hardcore is legendary. It's like the metal scene. It's like the hair metal scene in LA, the Sunset Strip scene. Like everybody wants to say that they were a part of that or they were adjacent to it. But, when you get to talk to somebody who was really, really there on the ground when all that stuff started happening, it's pretty cool. So, looking forward to this chat and looking forward to sharing this chat with all of you today. But before we go too far, Heartbeat Hot Sauce is the heartbeat of the Rockman Power Hour. Let's go to a commercial, Ryan.
Heartbeat Hot Sauce. Heartbeat Hot Sauce. Heartbeat Hot Sauce. Heartbeat Hot Sauce. Heartbeat Hot Sauce.
I like that catchy little number. I can't remember where we were, but we wrote that jingle. We're out at a concert or something. I'm like, we should do something with Heartbeat Hot Sauce that's kind of like funny and 80s-ish. And, it's really easy to make a song about a hot sauce you genuinely love so much. Because
Yes.
a lot of people just do things so they get paid. And that's kind of sad. But frankly, it's really nice to actually, wave the flag of Heartbeat, and I can't think of a soul that hasn't liked the dill pickle yet. So
No, it's great stuff. It really is great stuff. And everyone I know that has tried it, love it. I went to go see Bill and the Mastodon guys, and Lamb of God, and I brought a bunch for everyone on the crew, and they were just so happy when I showed up with Heartbeat. They were like, yes, and they were grabbing it, bringing it back. Some of it made its way back to Atlanta, and it's just great to see the word of Heartbeat spreading around. So if you haven't tried Heartbeat Hot Sauce yet, do yourself a favor and try it, and use our promo code Rockman20 and get 20% off your entire order the entire time you use it. Also, Ryan, you're wearing a beautiful Studio House Design shirt. That is the Scream shirt. It's a great one. So if you have not checked out Studio House Designs yet, make sure you put them on your radar. They are a great t-shirt company out of Philadelphia, and they will rock your world. And of course, thanks to our friends at Audio Technica Canada, Mike Marino and the gang, for always helping us out and making us sound great. Okay, Ryan, let's dive into this right now. Vinnie Stigma from the amazing band Agnostic Front is joining us with Howie Abrams. Now, if you don't know anything about Howie has written a ton of great books on the scene as well. And a great conversation that we had with both of these gentlemen right here on the Rockman Power Hour. All right. Really happy to have today on the show with me a couple of dudes that are doing something or have done something that's coming out in September that is, in my humble opinion, an important piece of hardcore history. You talk about people that are historians, people that mark certain events in history that are important. Well, the fact that we're getting Vinnie Stigma's story is something to be celebrated. So we're joined today by Vinnie Stigma. And now, okay, I want to, just before I say this, Howie, you collaborated on this together with Vinnie, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so explain to me a little bit about how this came together. Obviously, it must have been born out of a friendship, but tell me about how you get involved with Vinnie to write and help him write his book about his life.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Vinnie since 1984. I met him outside a CB's matinee, and we had a million mutual friends. And Vinnie is the mayor. And so he was the welcoming committee at CBGB's, basically. And again, through mutual friends, we met, and I became his record company at one point, and we've just remained friends. And then fast forward, I've been working on books, since 2013, and was trying to figure out what was next at one point. And I'm like, it's time to do a Vinnie Stigma book. Like, it really is time. And so I approached Vinnie. Vinnie told me he'd been approached before, actually, but he didn't feel it was sort of the right time. And this was the right time. So we talked about this idea of like not making a quote unquote proper biography, right? So doing something that's a little different, breaking the mold of like the punk rock biographies that have been coming out, which are just these chronological order stories, and so we added some things to the book that are not the most traditional ideas. I mean, he's got recipes from his grandmother and mother,
cookbook,
comic book, children's story.
There's a
crossword puzzle. So there's all these things. So we had the same idea, and I do books. He does music. We put it together, and now you have Vinnie Stigma's autobiography.
I love it. You know what I think is really interesting about you, Vinnie, is that you're kind of like a bit of a modern day Renaissance man. You're one of these people that just when you think you can pin him down, you think you got him figured out, he'll throw you for a loop and be into something you would never think he would be into, like cigars. Like I'm a big cigar guy.
Oh, okay.
I'm also a sober guy. Like I've been sober a long, long time. I don't drink.
Okay.
But for me, cigars are really, really important in my life. Like I got into cigars in like early 90s. And, I've been smoking cigars for probably, 30 something years at this point, 31, 32 years. And cigars are so symbolic to, good conversations, appreciation for fine construction, like things that I think a lot of people, when they are into cigars for the right reasons, and I'm sure you are, they get it. You know what I mean? And there's something so nice about fellow cigar smokers that understand.
Yeah. I belong to all the clubs, all the cigar clubs. And like one of my first experiences with cigars was like, of course, like my grandfather, he had like that little Denobler on his, for like 40 years, the same cigar. Like he just chewed on it. It was never lit, And I remember going to funerals, Italian people had funerals, there were a lot of flowers. And there was like always a cigar room. And I always remember the smell of cigars and the flowers. I don't know what it's spiritual,
But there's something about that tradition of sitting down. And what I love about a cigar is I won't have a cigar unless I have an hour and a half to smoke it. Like it's not a habit for me. You know what I mean? It's a pleasure.
Enjoyment.
It's enjoyment. And I need to have a good hour and a half and I need to be sitting with somebody. I can have a cigar alone, but I want to be sitting with someone. So
me too.
Right?
I know you're sober, I know, but I like a nice glass of wine.
Sure, no.
I know people do the bourbon things, but I like wine. I've been drinking wine since I'm a kid,
Right.
My grandfather used to make wine too, so it was always the wine, the cigars, the food, and the conversation.
It's interesting because I'm sure, in the book, you're probably going to dive into all these things that you're passionate about. You mentioned comic books. A lot of people that came up in New York City were into comic books. New York City was the ground zero for Marvel Comics. It was for everything that came out of just the immigrant experience of coming to New York and feeling like you didn't belong, and all that was poured into the comic book story. So I think that really was. It really, really spoke to a lot of people in the hardcore scene because that's how a lot of us felt. We didn't belong. We had to find our own way. We had to find a power. So it doesn't surprise me that you're into comics as well. Tell me a bit about your first experiences with comic books.
Well, I like the back of the comic book, like the telescope, the vision that you could see through walls, the bar belt. Remember that had the weights? Yeah, like all those stupid things, like the soap that you wash your face, you'd get black, or like it gets you dirty. All those,
Oh my God, you're bringing back all these wacky memories.
Yeah, like the yo-yos and like all these kind of like things, kaleidoscopes, like that they like in the back of the seahorses. Remember the seahorses?
Yeah. But that would grow.
Yeah. They were like, they come in the mail. They're like, you throw it in water, all of a sudden they come alive or something.
Yeah. Sea monkeys.
Sea monkeys. That's what it was. Yeah. Back in the comic book was the best.
Well, that's it. And, it's funny how when you think back on certain things like that, like they bring up a lot of memories. I know for you, you get a lot of people that come up to you and tell you how influential you were to them. You're still going strong with the band right now. Still, going to be going out on tour with Sepultura. You guys are always active. You're always playing. What's it like for you when you get, some young kid that comes up to you and says, you have no idea how much you've impacted my life. Is it strange? Because I know I can tell you're probably a really humble guy. And for you, it's like, well, I was just doing what I was supposed to do or what I needed to do. But when you get someone that comes to you and says that, what's it feel like?
First of all, it's a great honor. I have a responsibility to this person to be a good person because I would never want anybody to think me bad like that. You know, that's very important to me because, without them, I'm nothing. And that a lot of these so-called rock stars should learn from that. It's your audience. You know what I mean? Which we call our family. You know, and yeah, I'm very humble. When a kid knows a song that I've written before he was born, I'm overwhelmed. You know, just like yeah, even Howard. I told him in the beginning I didn't even want to write a book. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But I said, okay, I'll do it with you, Howie, because I love him. I trust him. He's my friend. 40 years. So I do it, and when people come up to me like that, I'm like, wow, this is it's amazing. I'm humbled. I make sure I'm always correct. I'm always protective.
Yeah.
How he knows, even when he came to CBGB's back in the early days, I was the welcoming committee. I was the guy that would even like Lou Carla and all these people. They had long. He tells the story all the time that I come up to him and I'll start talking to him about anything. Anything. I don't care. Like, well, who's on next?
Right.
Who just played? Like, did I miss anything?
In the intro to the book, I wrote an intro about like, why am I doing this, right? And the very beginning, I'm talking about Vinnie being the New York Hardcore Welcoming Committee at CB's, right? And then I had my own experience, and here I am, this long kid who's just into like super aggressive music, and I'm here about these CBGB's matinees, this Agnostic front, blah blah blah, and I go down there, and part of the CB's experience was on the sidewalk, between bands, and so here's this Vinnie Stigma, who I know who he is, I have his record, coming up and just sort of like, hey, you here to see the show? Okay, good. I'll see you inside. And just the fact that he spoke to us. And, when you go down there the first time at that period, you're a little intimidated. It's like, a grimy little area. Mm-hmm. And it's all these, like, at that point, it's a lot of skinheads and like whatever. And, you already like the ice is broken,
For sure. Yeah.
It's incredible. And so many people had that experience. And I said that, if I had like a nickel for every person who told me the first time they went to a matinee, they met Vinnie, I'd be on the Forbes, top, like top paid, richest list. And so it really is that kind of thing. And what amazes me is it's still that way.
You know what it is, Jay? It was my neighborhood. I only live. CB's is my neighborhood, like my family. Where
we're 3 blocks away, basically.
Yeah, I could throw a football and like hit CBGB's.
Yeah.
I used to carry my amp right for when I'm talking. Put it on my shoulder, my Marshall head, pick up my guitar, put my strap on me with all my gear in it, like my distortion pedals, and so come out, lock the door, my door right here, go all the way to CBGB's. Boom, put it on the stage. Then I used to come back to underneath the stairs where I live and get my cabinet, my Marshall cabinet, put it on a hand truck and wheel it over there by myself. And everybody in the neighborhood was, hey, Vinnie, what are you going to see? What are you playing? They all knew I was playing CBGB's,
Yeah.
And like I said, it was my neighborhood. My grandfather's, I would stand in front of CBGB's, no shirt on, coming out of the pit. And I see my grandfather's pigeons flying around. Like, I know he's on the roof. Then people passing by like, beep, beep, yo, Vinnie. Like, yo, come on in. Yeah, I'll see you. They won't come in. But, they were from my neighborhood. They knew that I liked music. I was the band from the neighborhood before, long ago, in the early 70s when I had the band Black Anchor. All Italian boys. We used to play the feast, the San Gennaro feast. And it was a lot of fun. I always liked being in a band. I like, camaraderie. And I like being in a band. When you're in a band, that means you're in. You can't get out. It's a band. It's still a band.
There, a few years back, this movie came out, and a lot of people were talking about you guys when Godfather Hardcore came out. What that must have been a trip too, because you had whenever you do any kind of documentary or any kind of film, it really keeps an interest, brings an interest back sometimes. And this was definitely one of them. Like when Godfathers of Hardcore came out, a lot of people were talking about the band again and talking about you. Was that kind of cool to see, the screenings and the people like finding the band through this?
But you know what's funny? In my neighborhood, a lot of the people, the older people, the old Italian people would say, "Yo, I saw your movie." They all thought it was like a mafia movie because I did a movie before this called New York Blood, and I played like a mafia gangster that ran like a house, a prostitute house. I was like a drug, the whole thing. The drug. I do a couple of murders in it. It's like a totally B-rated movie, but the movie, the theme of the movie is pretty cool. Of course, it's B-rated, low camera. Yeah, you know how it goes, but you get the message.
Yeah, but Godfather.
Oh, but Godfathers,
Yeah.
that's a professional documentary.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. So when you do this, and what's great about documentaries is that I'll watch a music documentary on anyone. I don't even have to like the music because I love the stories.
Right.
And usually once you watch one of these things, you walk away with an appreciation. Like even Nickelback, they're a band that a lot of people will slag and stuff, but I just watched the Nickelback documentary and it really, I mean, I am Canadian, so we kind of have to like Nickelback. But really, you have a respect for them because like everything, things get distorted. The story changes sometimes. But when you look at these guys telling their story, like everybody else, they had the struggles at the beginning. They had the aunt and the uncle and the mother that gave them the money for the first demo that helped them out. So everybody has a story. So I think when you see a story like this with Godfathers of Hardcore, I'm sure a lot of people discovered the band through that might have casually just found the documentary.
I also have seen so many documentaries of bands that I'm not necessarily a fan of, which just, like you said, it just at least gave me an appreciation I couldn't have possibly had any other way. So like, and there are a number of those. I'm not going to say it because then it sounds like I'm just, saying terrible things about these bands, but there are bands who, have like this culture around them. I'll say the Grateful Dead. So basically, there's a culture around them that's so unique, right? It's so different, like what they did and, where it came from and how they maintain themselves and all those things. You see it and you're like, I get it now.
Well, that's it. And it's funny because coming from you, Howie, being someone who is obviously, the hardcore scene is very important to you, but a lot of people in the hardcore scene would look at Grateful Dead and be like, just dismiss it, and be like, that's just, just a bunch of hippie,
There are so many similarities between the hardcore scene and all of that people would never realize. The independence of it, that we're never going to tell our fans what to do. Like they are who they are. So if they want to get like high out of their minds at our shows, that's their thing. That's fine. If they're sober, great. If whatever it is, like if they like When We Noodle, great. If they just like our songs, great. Like, if they hate our albums but love coming to see us, like you hear all those conversations in hardcore. Like hardcore is ridiculous that way because a lot of people do I only like the first album. Like, I only liked Victim in Pain. Like everything after that is, and it's like people do that to every hardcore band. I only like the first album, but I love them live, or something like that. So there's varying, takes on all of it. And AF gets that. Like, they get the same thing. Like Cause for Alarm comes out, it's too metal.
Yeah.
It's like all of that stuff has happened, and all of that stuff happens to almost every band.
100%. And yeah, of course, Agnostic Front's, no exception. You're going to get people that are going to say this and that. But what I like about this younger generation coming up, they're less like that. They're a little bit more accepting and they're just a little bit more appreciative. So, I saw it with Sick of It All. Like, when Sick of It All did those records, the last couple of records that they did, my buddy Jerry, you probably know Jerry Farley, like he produced, I think one or two of them, and they were phenomenal fucking records. And they had so many people who were like, man, this is great. And it was so nice to see an old school band put out a new record that people were like, this is great. This is awesome. And it almost seemed like the those people that would be at the back of the bar going like, yeah, impress me with the Some of that's going away now. And it seems like this younger generation just appreciating the fact that they're getting to see these bands. You know, like I know people that'll say, I'm just happy I get to see Agnostic Front. Like they're legends, you know, so there's less of that. So I think with age and with time spent in the trenches, there's a respect that develops for a lot of these bands where people are just like, hey, I'm just happy I'm getting to see them.
Yeah.
I think that's true, and it's interesting because this younger generation has like their own bands, right? Like they have so many of bands that they consider to be their generation. Like I'm wearing this band High Vis, which is a big like band from the UK right now that's making a lot of noise, and like even the fact that it's international, right? So like, were we wearing hardcore bands shirts from the UK 10 years ago? Even I don't think so. You know, like there really weren't a lot that made it to the States to tour or whatever. So this worldwide hardcore thing is a real thing. And I think, I'll say the Godfathers, like who they are, whether it's an AF or a Second of It All or whoever else it may be, people recognize that and do respect that those bands carved a road, for younger bands. And, there used to be a lot of haterade all over the place about like old people and young people. And, I think people are getting a little bit more back into music.
Yeah. So Vinny, you're getting ready to unleash this book to the world. You're going back out on the road. You're at a point in your life where you're probably just having the fucking best time.
I think this is it. This is my swan song, I guess. I got the record. We're working on a new album also, with Agnostic Front. I got the tours, I got the record coming out. So I'm booked up for the rest of the year. And then God wants, maybe we'll have a good next year too.
And it's got to feel really good to know that you've gotten to a point, in your career where, you don't have to worry, stuff's coming. And I'm sure there's still that old school part of you that like when you're not busy, you're getting a little antsy, but are you able to kind of just sit back and go, I know it's going to be taken care of, or do you still get antsy when you see maybe a month of nothing happening?
Well, you know how it is. When you go, like I call it tour fever. When you're on tour for 2 months, you can't wait to get home. Then when you get home, like a couple of weeks later, you can't wait to get back on tour. So it's like this endless cycle of, constantly doing something. But in between that, like I made a couple of solo records. I just made a country record.
Yeah, he has a country record coming out.
You have a country record coming out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me how that happened.
Well, I know these guys, and they just like Howard. They wanted to do a country record with me, and I was like, yeah, okay, And I didn't want to do a country record like everybody else has done a country record, just like I did with the book. So I finally did it, and we're going to be releasing it with Gogo Bordello's labels, and we hope it does good. I'll go on the road with it, maybe have some fun.
It's a fun record, and it's like it's cover songs, it's original songs, but like who's like the singer from the Agri-Lights?
We got Jesse from the we got Johnny Two Bags from Social Distortion, Harry Martinez, the Mexican bandit from the U.S. Bombs. Lars wrote a song for me. Like, I got a lot of guys on the record. A lot of guys that don't even know what wrote the record.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I got to chat with him.
It's punk rock.
Yeah. It's really, but it's very old school country.
Yes.
It's not, you're not going to hear Ring of Fire.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Are we going to
hear?
Does this mean
very Western?
It's Western. Yeah. Does this mean we're going to see Vinnie Stigma in a cowboy hat?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure.
He's going to make them. His merch.
Not only that, you got to see me as a wrestler. Oh, he comes to see me because I wrestle too. That's another fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing in the book about his wrestling extravaganzas that have been taking place. So we have a good friend who ran a hardcore label, a little hardcore label called Striving for Togetherness years ago. He put out Vision of Disorder, real records. And he's become like the voice of independent wrestling.
Outlaw wrestling.
He works with an organization called Outlaw Wrestling that does like independent wrestling events and whatever. And he knew Vinny was a wrestling fan, like big, back to like Bruno Sammartino. And so he's like, you ever think of wrestling? And so Vinny's like, I love it. And so the idea was to make him like a Lou Albano, like a manager,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
The commissioner of outlaw wrestling.
Right, the commissioner. And so he became Mr. Goomba.
Yeah.
And so he did the first one, and naturally, Vinny couldn't stay out of the action.
Yeah.
He's flying off the top rope.
Flying off the top ropes.
And so he's with like the Samoans kids, like the younger generation.
Yeah.
And he's like, they're throwing him around,
Yeah.
and he's like all this stuff. And then he wound up doing it a few more times. And like, so you have to look out in your town, may come to Montreal or Toronto. You have no idea.
Big wrestling up there too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, Montreal. I mean, look, Montreal's a huge wrestling town. It always has been.
You know what it is? I know how to stage dive, so I know how to fly off the top rope. You know what I mean? So I took my experience of hardcore stage diving and moshing, and I added it to wrestling. I seen them in Max's Kansas City and CBGB's. I can't remember where I seen them first. I think Max's. I seen them first when they only had Play to Come, the single, and they were pretty amazing. There were a lot of other great bands. There was
were they wearing suits though, Bad Brains, at the time?
I tell you,
they wore suits.
I can't remember. To be honest,
I think they were wearing suits.
It was more when they were like kind of really in that like reggae ska, like right before.
Before all that.
Yeah. This is when they were coming off being into like Chick Corea and Mahavishnu Orchestra, and they were sort of like, it was like post New Wave time, right? The late 70s.
Like it almost had like that two-tone vibe.
But it was also like the Cars. It was like skinny ties and like suits, and they were maybe starting to grow their hair out a little bit because the Rasta thing came later.
That came later. That was not.
They were just like, DC rock guys.
To me, that was the band. After that,
See, I saw them for the first time a little bit later, right? Because by the time I really became hip to them, they broke up. And that was like 83-ish, And so I didn't see them till 85. And, long story short, there was this new club opening in New York called the Rock Hotel, the proper Rock Hotel, that was all the way on the west side, because where else are you going to have like punk rock shows? Except in like a weird place, like far away or a shitty neighborhood or whatever. So basically, they were opening this club, and they asked if the Bad Brains would sort of reunite to open the club, like to play at the club, in the early days. So they did. And so for one thing, what I understand is that while they were rehearsing for those shows, they basically wrote Eye Against Eye, which came out a year later, right? But to see HR, I mean, there was no, aside from the tightness of the band and the musicianship of like a punk hardcore band being that good and that tight, HR still, he reigns as a frontman you're never, ever going to see again, right? So it was like equal parts a bunch of things, yet nothing that you'd ever seen either, So the energy, because they would play for 90 minutes or whatever, because once they introduced reggae to their set, the sets got longer, and they're playing for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was like he had the energy of one song for 90 minutes. He never stopped moving. He had there was a positivity to him, as far as what he would talk about on stage. And yet at the same time, he was just fucking ferocious, So you were like scared of him, but you wanted to have a conversation with him. And and it was just sort of, to this day, I've never seen anything that matched it.
So like, as you know, and of course you guys know, merchandise is so important now. For so many bands, it's another revenue stream. It's a way of people to show their fandom. I'm going to show you this thing, and I'm sure you've seen it before. I'm sure you've seen this before, right?
Oh, the HR. Yeah.
So
the HR action figure. Well, you have one.
Oh yeah.
Vinny's got one.
Yeah, Vinny. I'm sure Vinny has one. So when you get someone like Super 7 that approaches you guys to do Agnostic Front action figures, is that weird for you?
Yeah, I guess, because my friend Scott from Ghoul made my first action figure.
Right.
Because I think he works with a toy company.
Yeah.
And He gave me he made the first action
There's
picture.
just one, right?
Just,
Of that
just
one.
one,
That's
yeah,
one of
that
mine,
he
sure.
made.
Yeah.
That's when I played with the Metallica kid.
Oh, with Kirk Hammett.
With
Yeah,
Kirk Hammett, I got invited to a
Metallica
Kirk
kid.
Hammett show, a private show that he did, and I met
Yeah.
Scott Gould. I call him Fangoul. Yeah, I met him for the first time, and he gave me this action figure. And I thought, wow, this guy is like a cool guy. You
Right.
know, the band is cool. He's cool. He works for a toy company. How cool is that? I mean, really?
But then a lot of people involved in this kind of music got involved with some toy companies,
Yeah.
right? So like Super 7 and all that. And so, yes, was it Super 7 who did the devil skinhead thing? All right, so they did that. And then there's another company which makes these things called Throbbleheads, and they made a Vinnie Stigma Throbblehead.
I got a bobblehead that does not look like me at all.
At all.
I love it. I love it. It don't even look like me.
If you take the mohawk off, it might be a woman. We're not sure.
Who knows, right? Yeah.
So it's cool to see that people, I especially with the invention of 3D printers and what people are able to do on their own now, it's pretty impressive, and if you're into the whole toy thing, as I am, I mean, I like a lot of different things, but it's cool to see these collabs that happen, these crossovers. I went to a Circle Jerk show and they had a Circle Jerks action figure, their guy. Like, it's just
the
really,
guy, right? Like on the cover. Yeah.
it's just cool to see all of that come. And, when you look at Agnostic Front, you've got to admit it's a brand now. There's a lot more to it. And there's maybe 10 or 12 bands that can say that, that have a brand, and Agnostic Front is definitely one that, when you see that, everybody wants that patch on their jacket. Everybody wants to say they were into them. And
the boots, they got the boots. Who's got the cross?
Right.
Their religion.
The DRI has the
DRI
skanking
has the
stick
skanking.
figure, like
Corrosion of Conformity
right,
had
that helmet.
the helmet with the spikes.
Yeah.
For sure. And even before, when you look at, the classic rock bands, like Zeppelin were a brand, the Doors were a brand, and Joy Division. I mean, like, everybody, how many people wear that Joy Division, that unknown.
Nobody knows it's a band.
Nobody knows it's a band. And one of the first times you ever see that kind of, that thing that's on the cover of that wavy thing is in Alien, when you watch Alien, when they're landing. So,
right.
it's all those, but it's, so what I wanted to ask you, Vinny, what was your band when you were growing up that you would have, maybe not a patch, but you would have wore a shirt of, or you were like carrying the flag for them?
Okay, I liked Bad Company.
Yeah.
I like, of course, Black Sabbath. Phil's band, Phil from the Island. Thin Lizzy.
Oh, Thin Lizzy, yeah.
Yeah.
Phil from Ireland.
Yeah. I visited his statue every time I'm there,
So you definitely grew up on classic rock, like on rock and roll.
Well, I'm older, so I did grow up, but I made the jump. Once the Pistols came out, that was it for me.
Yeah.
I went straight into punk in the mid to late 70s.
Unbelievable. So tell me a bit about the book, when it comes out, where people can get it, and what you're going to be doing around it. Because I know you're going to be doing some, you're going to obviously be doing some in stores and stuff like that. So what's on the next forefront for that?
Yeah, we're getting busy. In fact, on Friday, Vinny, thank God, starts recording the audiobook. So that's going to be good. I've never worked with a book where people wanted an audiobook more. It's
all about the accent
that he was going to.
It's true. And listen, I was just lucky enough to do this really, really cool thing with Geddy Lee from Rush. And Geddy's book, My Effin' Life, is an incredible book. Like,
it is.
And I had this crunch time where I had to get ready because I was hosting his Q&A. Like, I did the in conversation with him for 90 minutes. So I'm like, I got to know my shit. And I know my Rush shit, but I really have to know my shit. But what was great is I listened to it on Audible, and it was him reading it. So when I know it's probably a massive pain in the ass for you to do it, but it's going to pay off because people are going to want to hear you reading your book for
100%.
Sure.
Like, and to the point where we were getting like requests. It was really like unlike anything I'd ever been involved in. But, we have the book coming out September 10th everywhere.
Yeah.
Of course, it's available on Amazon and all that. But you can get it for New York, and they ship Generation Records. In Germany, there's Cortex Records that ships as well for the EU. And then there's Revelation Records has Rev HQ. They have it for sale. And we also have, there's a company called Premier Collectibles that has signed copies of the book. And so what they do is they're like a memorabilia
Oh, I know.
collectibles kind of.
I'm very familiar with them.
Right. So they approached us out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, we want to carry Vinnie's book. And we're like, okay. So they bought a whole bunch of copies, and, so they're carrying the book. And they've been great to work with, honestly. And I think they may have to order more because we've done quite well with them. So, basically it's available. If you want indie, it's available. If you want Amazon, it's available. All those things. If you want a $12,000 guitar from the Rolling Stones and Vinnie's book, you can do Premier Collectibles. But yeah, so we have some events coming up. We are going to do the New York signing 2 days after the book comes out on the 12th of September. And what we're doing is we're trying to not do what everybody does. So we're doing a screening of The Godfathers of Hardcore. And then Vinnie and I are going to do just a very intimate Q&A, just the two of us afterward. And then there's going to be a book signing. And then Vinnie's going to play 4 acoustic doo-wop songs.
I love it.
So that's the New York event, and books will be on sale, obviously, if you don't have one yet. We're doing one at a great shop in Dobbs Ferry, New York, called New York Hardcore Comics. We're doing an event at the Connecticut Punk Rock Flea Market. We're doing one at Bridge 9 Records up in Beverly, Massachusetts in December, a Christmas party. And then we are doing one, what's the name of the pizza shop in Montauk?
Dive Bar Pizza.
Right, Dive Bar Pizza way out in Montauk in October as well.
Yeah, it's a Halloween
party. It's going to be a Halloween party, basically. Yeah. And so we're just trying to keep it fun and like.
We'll do one in my tattoo shop.
Right, we'll do one in your tattoos.
So you get a tattoo, the book, a T-shirt, hang out a little.
The whole
make
experience.
a package out of it.
You can make us come up to Canada if you want.
I would love that. And I think I'm going to have to work on
well,
that.
Maybe because he's going to be up there, so who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'll see you at the show, right?
Well, yeah, maybe we could, depending on what the schedule's like, I'll be at the show for sure. I'm actually going to be going up on stage and doing Ratamata.
Oh, yeah? You're going to be playing percussion?
Yeah, dude, I have my...
Well, then I'll see you. I'm going to be there.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. You're not getting away from me now that we've met each other.
Yeah, no way.
So let me ask you just last before we go. Well, first of all, tell everybody where they can get the book. What's the website? Like if they want to order it online.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I just listed off all the places, but Amazon is easy. It's always.
I was going to say, okay.
And Amazon Canada's got it,
right?
So basically, yeah. So Vinnie's pushing it, but show him what you do if you come in person with the book. So not only does he sign it, but he has these Agnostic Stigma rubber stamps.
I love it.
So he'll do that for you. And Amazon, Generation, Cortex, Premier Collectibles, Rev HQ. Those are the places. We love to support like the indie people that have been along the ride with AF and hardcore, especially New York. So a lot of people have been, again, really supportive. You'll be able to get it at the Punk Rock Museum in Vegas as well. And so, we're just doing what we can do, and the reaction's been great. And we're just really happy for people to see this. Yes, they want us to come out there too.
And lastly, Vinnie, your favorite cigar, your go-to cigar.
Ooh, I don't want to sound like a snot nose, but I just picked up Romeo and Juliet #1s, but okay. I like the #2s.
Right.
Romeo and Juliet #2, the Coronas.
Coronas.
5.5 by 46, something like that. I got.
I know there are sizes, but you're really getting into it.
La Flor de Cuba.
Yeah,
they're good.
So if I can recommend one, I was in the States a little while back, and I went to JR's because I'm sure you've been to JR's before. And for you guys, JR's is easy, but for us to get cigars in Canada, I know we can get the Cubans, but Romeo and Julieta and the Nicaraguan, I got this one. This is an incredible smoke.
Oh, that looks nice. Yeah.
It is really nice. So when I see you, I'm going to give you one of these.
Look at
You just found his heart.
Yeah. You're my best friend now.
Thanks for taking the time, guys. And best of luck with the book, and we'll definitely be chatting soon.
Seems like a really nice guy. I love the accent. Love the authenticity. Seems like he could have partied with a Ninja Turtle with an accent like that.
Yeah,
It's pretty
definitely.
awesome. I always love podcasts and long form discussions like this because it's really nice to hear the voice behind the music, even when you
Yeah.
hear it singing and screaming. And
Yeah.
it's nice to hear the talking version. So, I feel compelled right now to buy said book because I love books. I love. I'm currently in the
Yeah.
middle of listening to the audio book of No Effects, the Hepatized Bathtub, and all their stories.
Yeah.
And I look forward to
Does Fat Mike read it?
Oh yeah, they all
Oh,
read
wow.
it.
Oh,
They
great.
all-
Okay,
They
okay.
all read it in their very distinct voices, and hearing Fat Mike's inflections of his own life, and Smelly's the most interesting one. Like
Yeah.
I always thought he was like the most softer side one because he's a sober one, but Jesus Christ, when he was younger, he was a fucking maniac. And it's interesting, and it just goes to show that we all grow, and what is life if not change, evolution, or whatever. So when you think of someone 30 years ago to now, it's actually interesting to see that life difference, and that's what I want to learn about this book, because Agnostic's friend's been around forever, and I want to see the crazy maniac he used to be to the current crazy teddy bear that he is today. I'm looking for this.
So yeah, no, definitely. So, Godfather of New York City hardcore himself, Vinnie Stigma of Agnostic Front is, just an amazing dude. And as you could hear in our conversation, he's just always so much fun. So definitely check out the book. It is called The Most Interesting Man in the World. There is a foreword by Roger Merritt, of course, the lead singer of Agnostic Front, and it was written alongside Howie Abrams, who has been a long time, almost like a hardcore historian, if you will, been on the scene forever and knows all these dudes personally. So great to catch up with both of them. If you want to get the book, you can get it at simonandschuster.com through the publisher themselves, or you can get it they're actually the distributor, or you can get it through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or anywhere you buy your fine books. And I definitely suggest buying a physical copy of the book. What you hear in our chat, Vinny was actually on his way the next day to do the audiobook for Audible of this book. And I saw on Instagram some pictures of him in the studio reading it. So I love audiobooks like you. I think they're great, especially for this world we live in where we're always on the go. It's great to just plug in and listen to something like that. So I'm definitely going to get a copy of his audiobook.
I agree, man.
Sure.
He's such a personality that you're going to want to hear that kind of the accent, the inflections, his humor. It will be better said by him than anybody else.
Agreed.
Unless it's ironically a very stuffy sounding reader who's like, and then that is when Spiky Bill puked on my boots.
Yeah, I know.
That would be great too.
Certain people you want them reading the book. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that he decided to do his own audiobook. All right. Well, listen, Ryan, thank you so much, man. This has been a great episode, and we've got a lot of great stuff coming to you. We're also going to be this weekend. You'll be able to see us at Music for Cancer. Looking forward to that. We're going to be on the ground interviewing a bunch of bands. We're going to be doing a lot more of that too. So make sure you keep it locked on our socials. If you're not following us on Instagram yet, or on Facebook, or on TikTok, do that, please, because you will be missing on some exclusive content that we put up there when we are out and about. And also, thanks to all of you for liking and subscribing. We appreciate that. It means the absolute world to us. Thank you to our friends at Studio House Designs. Thank you to our friends at Heartbeat Hot Sauce, and to Audio Technica Canada, all of which help us make this happen every single week. Thanks to my co-host Ryan Stick, and of course thanks to our producer Julia Kajerski. And until next time, we'll see all of you on the Rockman Power Hour. Hey, thanks so much for watching the podcast. We really appreciate your support. And if you're enjoying the podcast, click this link right over here to watch the next episode, and click right over here and subscribe. And that way you won't miss anything.